Hello.
Let me put my earphones. There we go.
That's so funny. I have that. I used to have that exact dress.
Oh, it's actually a shirt.
Oh, I had a dress just like that.
Print, huh?
Yeah.
How about that?
So welcome. I'm just going to go through this. It's very casual, and I want to really just chat with you like a girlfriend primarily. And, yeah, you've been traveling a lot.
I know, and I'm still going to be traveling, too.
Fun.
We had so much fun taking my granddaughter everywhere, though. She was a great travel companion.
Oh, it was just you two?
Well, no, my husband, too.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, it was great. Oh, my gosh. We got cornered by flash floods on all sides, so that was kind of adventuresome. But,
did you travel around Texas?
No, we went to Sedona, Monument Valley, the Grand Canyon.
Oh, that's right.
It was beautiful. Antelope Canyon, all around, big loop around that area. It was beautiful. Arizona, Mexico, Utah.
I love that part of the country. So special.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to maybe ask you more about Sedona, but I'm just going to do a brief intro. I'm sure everybody knows about you already, but my little show is super
I got
that. And is your name Medhus or Medhus?
Oh, Medhus. You did it right.
Medhus.
Perfect. And you're one of the few that do.
Yeah, I don't want to botch it. I have a weird last name. People botch it all the time. I'm Yolis Young, and people, every permutation. So it's Medhus or Medhus?
Uh-huh. Right.
Either one?
No, Medhus.
Medhus. Okay. So.
No, Medhus like a moose.
Okay, Medhus. Okay, sorry. It's probably not super clear on this. And we're out in the country, too, so we're just counting on all of our support on the other side to make this happen.
All right.
So you're a physician and a mother of 5, which in and of itself is like totally mind-boggling and awesome to me. And you practiced internal medicine for over 30 years. You're an author of 3 award-winning parenting books and has lectured on parenting for schools, parent groups, and corporations, which I'm not sure that a lot of people know that about you. You're an amazing achiever of awesome things. After the death of your 20-year-old son, Eric, you began journaling your grief in a blog called Channeling Eric. And you were raised a strong believer in science, and you formally viewed spiritual matters with skepticism. And once Eric, your son, began to communicate with family, friends, and blog members, your entire paradigm shifted. And you went into it goes on to, this is your biography, and it goes on to explain how you, and clearly a very active, curious mind, went into this sort of on an intellectual pursuit. But I'm so fascinated by your story as a woman, as a mother, as a spiritual being. I have 2 kids, and so when I think of 5 kids, I'm just like, oh my gosh, hats off, lady.
I don't know. Well, sometimes I thought, oh geez, why?
So were you pregnant, like nonstop?
Pretty much for 10 years, pregnant all the time. Well, I loved it.
Yeah, oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I think when you're having lots of kids, it's not like the old days where you kind of had to have kids. It's like you're choosing to have kids, and you're a doctor, so you know how to manage that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
There's so much to ask you and talk about, and one of the things that I thought was interesting just in your bio is talking about the fear of mortality in baby boomers, and I'm curious about what your interpretation of that is, from a physician point of view, and I want to talk to you more about your educational background and how that affects your interpretation of how things are unfolding in your life.
For me personally?
Yeah.
As my thoughts on my own mortality?
No, well, you mentioned your observations about baby boomers having major issues with mortality. And my work, and you may not know, I'm a hypnotherapist and I do life between lives hypnotherapy. So I work very actively with the spirit world, and I'm a certified Newton Institute Life Between Lives hypnotherapist. So
awesome.
So when in reading your books and comparing that to my experience in the spirit world and of people, there's a lot of similarities, and it's really super cool. And one of the callings that I feel like I have is helping people in this awakening time. It's a time that I see as an awakening, and Eric has certainly come through supporting that position. But for you as a classically trained physician, Western medicine physician, and then having these very spiritual, less scientifically provable things happening to you.
I see, yeah.
Yeah.
That was oh gosh.
That experience must have been amazing for you. Crazy.
It was, but it was difficult too, because when Eric died, here I was raised by two atheists, and I wasn't an atheist. I was agnostic pretty much. Raised in a world of material science where they teach you that, for something to exist, it has to be perceived by one of the senses, measured by an instrument, something like that.
Yeah.
So, when he was gone, I just didn't know how to answer the question, does he exist? And the other question, if he does exist, where is he? And then all these crazy things started happening, like unplugged blenders turning on, BBs dropping from the ceiling, and just crazy things. Faucets turning on. I didn't know what to think.
Did you have to deal with fear since you didn't have...
No. I was never afraid. Because I guess I felt that maybe on a subconscious level that it was Eric's energy. But it would make me believe for a while, but then doubt would creep in, and in truth, I was really afraid to believe, because I thought, what if I do believe, and then I find out it's all a bunch of bull, then that'd be like losing him again, but forever. So I really did not truly believe. I mean, I fought my skepticism for probably 4.5 years, and it wasn't until I heard his voice on one of the recorded sessions that it blew me away, and I believe 100% never to return.
Wow. That must have been an amazing time for both, for your family, but you in particular, and I would imagine Eric too, because I'm assuming that once that happened, it was easier for him to come through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was his voice, and, of course, the skeptic in me still had to get a sound professional to analyze it, but the analysis shows that it was not a human voice. So that was cool.
So when you make that leap from the empirical sciences into this vast world of potentially unprovable experiences, I mean, or I guess as some people like to say, there's I was just learning about it the other day. Some people say the difference between documentary evidence and testimonial evidence. It ends up being just your experience that you have to trust.
That's right.
Right.
And I'm not here to prove it to others. I know my own truth, and I'm comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And I commend you for that. I know that it must not have been easy. How do you feel like that's changed your life in opening that door?
Well, I guess it's so cool to know that Eric's always going to be around, and I will always have a relationship with him. It's going to be different, or it is different, but it's real nonetheless. So that's kind of nice. And although I was really never afraid of death, I'm even less so now. So that's changed, and it's so much. There's so much to the world, to the universe, to our dimension that meets the eyes and the senses.
To me, I like that element of mysticism or the magical, because to me, I feel like I'm reminded every day that anything is possible.
There we go. That's true.
Do you feel like your purpose in life has been identified or shifted because of this experience?
Oh, yeah, I do think so. I mean, I, of course, was able to save lives as a doctor, but I think that doing what I do now to give Eric a platform to help others, I feel like I'm saving more lives, figuratively and literally sometimes. Mm-hmm. So there have been a lot of people who say, I was about to kill, one guy wrote in the comment, I was about to kill myself today, but after reading this post, I'm going to live. I want to live. And there's all sorts of, just hundreds of stories like that. And I just feel very grateful to have the opportunity to do this for the world.
Well, I am so grateful for you, too, because it provides so much more juiciness to the work that's already happening. I just feel like it must be, and this is how my brain works, it must be that it's this time of awakening, that more people can have more flavors of learning about what's going on outside this physical experience, so that they.
Oh, I like the way you put that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I know this is my work, and my father was a physician. He was a pathologist, and he's crossed over, and he assists me in a more subtle way. Oh, but yeah. Having that scientific experience, and I'm sure you see it and I'd love to know actually your experience with other doctors as you've transitioned away from the hard sciences. Do you feel like your community, the medical community, has supported you or not supported you, or what's going on there?
Well, I kind of keep in the closet for the most part, but it's amazing when I'm forced out of the closet, mm-hmm. how many people believe. For example, I went to, I think it was a Christmas party for my husband's company. And, of course, they say, oh, what do you do? Well, I'm a doctor, but I've retired. I retired shortly after Eric died. And, okay, what do you do now? Well, I write books and have a blog. Oh, really, what's it about? And I go, oh, God. Oh.
Here we go.
I really don't want to open up that can of worms. And so they encourage me, no, go ahead. And then when I tell them everything, it's amazing how many people, oh, my God, yes, I got a sign for my mother when she crossed over. And this, everybody, a lot of people have these stories. And one lady said, yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because the other day I saw 2 angels near my dumpster. I was like, okay, see? So there are a lot of people in the closet, believe me. They're just too afraid of ridicule.
I would totally agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. And I think people like you, somehow, I think it's understood that the Western medical establishment has a very rigorous bar of intellectual achievement. And so people say, well, if a doctor feels this way, then maybe it's okay for me to come out of the closet.
I could see that. Yeah. That is absolutely true. But what is it that Arthur Schopenhauer said? He said that truth goes through 3 phases. First, it's ridiculed, then it's scorned, and eventually it's accepted as self-evident. And I think that's what we're going through with spirituality. Yeah, that's what we went through with the whole world is flat versus the world is round thing, too.
Yeah, have you seen that people are, like, thinking it's flat again? There's a whole meme out there. It's a little bizarre.
Oh, yeah, I've heard, yeah. And the hollow earth, yeah. That's funny.
So, and also there's an Eben Alexander, who's in North Carolina like me, and other people who are having these experiences are so profound, and it's speaking to the heart of the culture, I think. And so I'm curious, has the experience that you're now living, it's obvious that it's a part of your everyday experience now to have spirit, non-physical and physical, intertwining every day. How do you interpret the events of the day-to-day, whether it be politics or what you see on TV and how people are doing? I'm curious what you are seeing and interpreting.
Well, I will have to admit that's an area I need some growth in, because I do compartmentalize. I get so upset about politics. So sometimes, what's going on in the world today. So sometimes I have to slap my face and say, Elisa, look at the big picture. This is maybe a teachable moment. It could be a spiritual contract. We're all eternal beings. So what's the worst that can happen? I have to redirect my thoughts that way.
Well, that's a huge thing to ask of yourself with such with the type of upbringing that you've had, but then having these messages come through so frequently to remind you, but still integrating it is a whole nother matter. I mean, I'm
working on it. But yeah, it's a process, especially somebody my age. Can't teach an old dog new tricks, that sort of thing.
Well, from what I read, you're going to be around for a long time, right? Isn't that what Eric said?
Yeah, maybe. 93, I think he said. Sorry, world. You're stuck with me for a while.
That's so good. We need you. We need you big time. So, what are you working on currently? Is there anything new on the horizon for you?
No, I'm still doing the radio show and the blog, and there's not another book in the future that I see right now. Eric wants to start, let designers start creating, I guess, channeling Eric products like T-shirts, etc., so they can be like conversation starters. If people come up to you at a party, your shirt says channeling Eric, what does that mean? So he wants that. So I'll let people do that. I don't want to be involved in any of the
marketing,
monetary, or anything. I'll let people do that. I approve the designs, but that's about it. So, and I'm busy with my 2 grandbabies and traveling more, things like that.
Okay, that's awesome. So, in your book, My Son and the Afterlife, there was a section that was talking about shifting global consciousness. And there's a huge eclipse happening kind of in our vicinity on Monday, the 21st. And I'm curious.
That Monday, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm planning on doing a global meditation, and I'm just wondering, do you have thoughts about what's going on with consciousness from the perspective that Eric shares?
No, but I probably should ask him. I don't think I even have a session with anybody before then. And I don't trust my channeling with him. I do channel him usually in the bathtub because I get grounded there. Or on one of my hikes. But, I don't know. What do spirits tell you?
So the idea is the more people that are focused on one vision, that's how new realities become manifest. And
sure.
Right. And so the idea of a global meditation is one that there's a particular one that I'm going to use with my husband and have some friends over. And apparently the more people that are in your proximity, the more your consciousness can kind of triangulate and have a greater impact. And then there's this idea of I think hundreds of thousands of people. The more, like, there's a critical mass. I don't remember what the number
Interesting.
is. Yeah. Once a critical
I've heard that
mass
before.
Is achieved, that timeline becomes a possibility. And so having a guided mass consciousness visualization that you agree with and think is cool is kind of a fun thing to consider. And this one is general in that it really just talks about creating more harmony on the planet and creating abundance for everyone, and the release of technologies that are being suppressed, just so we can have free energy and the technology needed for healing that is available but being
suppressed by big pharma and others.
Just sort of moving us along.
I like that idea. And what we could do, if you want, is I could put that guided meditation to the blog and have all the blog members do it at the same time that you guys are doing it.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Fun?
Yeah, I can send information on it to you, and then you can just look at it and see what you think about it. The goal is, because there's a lot of different communities, and some people, there's kind of the ET community that like to talk about extraterrestrials. There is the community that wants to talk about inner Earth, whatever. But this is an effort to bring everybody together, regardless of their, whatever brand they're interested and attracted to. It's really more about the general unconditional love for the planet and for humanity, and for us to really just get to where we would like to go and evolve already and come out of this struggling period that we seem to be kind of stuck with.
Yeah. Eric likes to, and I've done this with the blog, likes to do this one particular meditation where you envision, it's a visualization really. Yeah. You visualize all your love energy, all your energy going to the core of the earth, and then it shoots out from the core to the crust to enter the souls of all those who are in need, or everybody, the little birds in this, in the sky, the airplanes up there, etc. And just doing that a couple of minutes a day can be very powerful, especially if, like you say, we do it on a global level.
Absolutely. And it's so fun because it's very similar to this meditation that I'm talking about. So this one comes, a bright beam of light comes from the galactic central sun and shoots down to the core of the planet, and then another beam comes up and shoots back up to the galactic central sun, and then a pink permeable like plasma love energy surrounds the planet and then sends healing and unconditional love to all the beings on the planet. And that, I think that visual, and just keeping in mind with the intention of bringing ourselves to a place of love and wellness and harmony. And because I can imagine that you in your current, like the work that you're doing, have the ability to see the impact that having trust in this spiritual realm and support can absolutely change people's lives.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen it just anecdotally through so many of the blog members.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you want to share some of that?
I'll see if I can remember any of them.
Yeah, just see what pops in, not to put you on the spot.
No, I don't care. Well, I'll share one evolution of a woman who lost her son just the same way that I lost mine, and she had been going to therapy for a number of months. And I'm not against therapy. I went through a lot myself, to be honest with you, and it was very helpful. And but she just didn't think it was helping her. So after her last session, she made up her mind to take her life, and she was getting everything ready to do it. And I can't remember, or maybe she never told me how she was going to do it. But she for some reason got compelled, nudged probably by spirit, to go to the computer and type in "my son is dead." And up comes the blog channeling Eric. She reads it from the very beginning, but there weren't that many posts at that point because it's pretty early on. And she made up her mind that life was worth living, and she has evolved in so many ways. I think she's into energy healing now. It's just incredible the transformation she's made, like from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Amazing story.
Oh my gosh, I actually am friends with someone who you're friends with. Sarah, and I don't know why I'm Sarah Kajawa.
Oh yeah, I love her. Yeah, oh, she's a good baker too. She can make some good cookies, girl.
She's amazing. I mean, she's an example of someone who lost her son not due to suicide, Adam.
Yes.
And just a tragic work accident, and evolving to a place where she's also on the blog, and she's an amazing medium, and she's working with me and a group of people to develop a whole new thing where it's slow. We're trying to figure out how to communicate with incapacitated people so that their loved ones know what their final wishes are before they pass. And so just spending a year trying to figure that out from the medium point of view. I'm not the medium, but I have a group of people that we're working with that are all mediums. And it's such an amazing opportunity. And I'm just trusting spirit to give it all to me so that I can create this thing.
Yeah. And I think that's a good idea. I told a producer friend of mine that would make such a great TV show, in my opinion, is, giving a voice to those that don't have it. Like channeling people in a coma, find out who tried to murder them or something, or channeling people with Alzheimer's or people who are autistic, or even people that can't communicate well, like channel the higher selves of struggling teens.
Oh,
things like that. It would be amazing.
Oh, I just got chills. And I think that the psychic and mediumistic community is known for a long time that this is a community that could use some help, but it's so fraught because it's such a complicated time of life, and there's so much emotion with family members. It's kind of like hospice in how it's just a touchy time, and so really asking spirit to come through, and as you know, Sarah, she likes to communicate with past celebrities, so she's like, Robin Williams is coming through and teasing me, but encouraging all at the same time with a really fun sense of humor. But I guess that's really the best way, right? Like trying to find the sense of humor in it while the structural elements fall into place. But it's got to be coming, and people who are in various stages of dementia or degrees of autism, we're trying to figure out, like, what is the best way to communicate. It is, I think it's definitely through the higher self of that person. Mm-hmm. But the family members are also, it's just also how to manage communicating with them in a way that it's a win-win for everyone, so that they feel safe, and that their family members being honored, and that the family member has a pure receiver for what it is that they're experiencing. And and people, what I'm finding already in our, and I'll just say too, if you know of anybody who's interested in having this, we're doing, for right now, just donation only, so that we can gather our resources and know the best approach. But we've worked with a woman who has she's sort of in and out of dementia, and helping her to communicate with her daughter where she's at.
How beautiful. That's awesome.
This was inspired by a medium friend of mine, Diana Mera, who a friend or a client of hers that she's worked with over time came to her and said, my best friend had an accident and she is in a coma, and I know she's hanging on because of a fight that we had. And so could you just try? And so Diane had never done it before, and she tried it. And sure enough, the woman who was the patient in the coma was like, I just need her to know that it's not her fault, and that I made my choices in life, and the circumstances that they're mine. Then she doesn't have to own any of it. And there was an apology. And then after the conversation, 2 hours later, she passed.
Wow. Yeah. I think that would be very helpful. Another thing, and this is not on the immediate horizon, that I think that the channeling air community has been thinking about is making an online school, one for kids to teach, or maybe even creating a charter school for kids. But anyways, teaching children meditation, nonviolent communication, how to use energy healing for themselves and others. I mean, all sorts of spiritual things. So learning how to channel, because everybody can. So good. And then also it would be good to have an online course for adults too. So eventually I'd like to start developing a curriculum and have different people as the teachers online.
Oh, that is so cool, because there's so many things that are already developed, and I know in different countries they're already absolutely doing cool stuff like that. Like England, for example, there are schools that are using meditation with, I guess they would call them nursery school kids, and it's just a huge deal. And I think that's an indication of our evolution, the consciousness of humanity, is if we can actually take that on board, because going in is such a powerful tool for guidance. Yeah. And I think, when people start being able to have tools that they can lean on to discern from within, that's going to be a huge moment for humanity.
Well, that's what a lot of my parenting books were about. All of them were about how to create or not create, how to raise children to be self-directed, to follow an inner compass, to reflect inwardly about their choices and so on, instead of being externally directed by peers and social standards and the media and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're very externally driven right now, and so meditation would help children develop that, learn how to talk to themselves, and now they do it in a lot of big companies. They meditate before they work, and the productivity apparently has just gone up through the roof.
Yeah. I think it'll eventually catch on from an entrepreneurial point of view. I mean, you see it happening everywhere, and I love the idea of bringing kids along, and because kids are also coming to the planet with more tools. They're coming fully wired for greater access to their higher selves. And I'm curious, as a mom, I have a son who has sensory processing things. He's 7, he's about to turn 8, and and some of the things that I've read about you and what you've said about how Eric was kind of resonates with me as his mom, and I just want to support him in a way that is the best for him. But then, and I don't know if you encountered this, but did you ever feel like his way of being in the world was somehow so much different than how other kids or maybe your other children were in the world, that it was hard to figure out like the best way to honor that?
Not when he was really young, but when he turned 14, because he was just inside of himself trying to battle his demons, and it was really hard. I showed him love all the time, but he had to be careful. Like, I would be driving and he'd be sitting by me, and I would hold his hand or hold his arm or whatever for a while, and I knew just how much to do it before releasing, so that he wouldn't like shrug me away because it was just too much for him. So
do you feel like he also was highly sensitive energetically, and maybe didn't even know it?
Yes, and a couple of my other kids are too. They're all so different. It's amazing. They came from all from the same 2 parents, but they're all very different, and you have to honor them in different ways than you do the other kids.
Absolutely. Do you believe that we choose our parents and choose?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And we choose our names. I've thought about that because my eldest, Christina, she takes so long to decide anything. If I took her to a store and gave her like $5, told her to, pick out a toy, she would be the only kid that would just take forever and eventually walk out with nothing. And she was the one where after I had her, we couldn't come up with a name. I mean, it was the 3rd day, and they said, "Look, you got to have a name for her." So we had this bottle of Christian Brothers champagne. It's like, let's name her Christina. So that was it. So, absolutely.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, kids. It's so interesting. My daughter, who just turned 10, she was born with a congenital eye condition. And I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called CHED, congenital hereditary endothelial dystrophy. And it's like a thickening of the cornea. And it's just so, it's so rare. And what's even stranger is that my husband and I would both have a recessive gene. I grew up in Hawaii. He grew up in Ohio. He's 12 years older than me. And it just doesn't make any sense. It's got to be spiritual, where my daughter chose to have this very particular way of seeing the world. She's not freaked out. She does need like an IEP in school, but she totally can handle, like, she's just totally like, "No, Mom, I don't want to know about surgery. I don't want to see like other people." And she's artistic, and it's
good. Awesome. Well, have you tried to find out what the spiritual contract was or is?
Not yet.
Or past life thing?
Not yet. I think because their mommy is such an airy-fairy that it's not that interesting to them to be going into that realm. So I try to not, like, inundate them with too much stuff. My husband and I are both pretty much that way. To give you an idea, we both met at Burning Man. We met each other at Burning Man, so we're very much that way. But it's going to unfold. I think her path is yet to be revealed, and if anytime she's ready to do a regression, I am on it.
That kind of reminds me of a story about Eric. When he was like 3, maybe, we had these river rocks in our landscape, and he picked up a real heavy one and dropped it on his foot, and, oh, mommy, I broke my foot. It's like, well, let me check it, sweetie. And I would check it the way I would have any patient to see if there was any broken bones. I knew there wasn't going to be, but I said, it's okay, Eric. Everything's fine. Nothing's broken. You're going to be fine. But, Mommy, take me to a real doctor. It's like, oh, thanks a lot. So I can totally get you, girl, when you relate your story to me.
It's like the stories you hear of rock stars or movie stars talking about their kids, and they're just as embarrassed by their uncool, goofy parents as anyone else.
I know.
That's
see, my kids and my husband, they know all my flaws. If my husband sees me getting on a ladder, no, or with a knife about to cut chicken or whatever, stop her, because I'm so clumsy. So then that just makes them think, are you really a doctor? When you can't even cut a tomato without slicing your fingers apart. So,
well, you're not a surgeon.
Thank God. Although I have done some cutting in my life, but like I've done more cutting on myself than any other patient. Not really.
No, that's funny. Let me see your mug. What's your mug there?
You made this for me.
Aw, that's so good.
But they spelled Medhus wrong, but that's okay. I think it makes it cute.
I love it. I have this is a Maui cup. Have you ever been to Maui?
No, I'd love to go though. So
I'm from there. So Grandma's is this little teeny hole in the wall breakfast place, and it's super yummy. And it's up in the country, so like monumental beauty. If you're ever there when we're there, let me know. Or if you ever need someone to tell you the best places to go on Maui or in Hawaii in general, I will hook you up.
Awesome.
So in the science that's coming out now about consciousness and about I'm thinking of many different words like quantum reality, quantum physics, and those kinds of things that are kind of validating of the spiritual realm. What do you think is most interesting?
That's a good question. I think, first of all, I want to say that it's so exciting that science is bridging the gap here. Finally, material science came about and totally undid so much spirituality from the great mystics, the ancient mystics, and so on. It just totally put a kibosh on that. But I think one interesting thing is the fact, I'll tell you a couple of them, that Eric said that the soul is made of neutrinos. Those are tiny little particles that they discovered because they could pass through lead. And maybe that's why spirits can go through walls and stuff like that. But and these neutrinos are actually carriers of information. And also I like the fact that he said the soul is attached to the body in the hollow spaces in the microtubules. And those are little tubules in the cells that are really essential for cell division, but they also help to maintain the integrity of the cell. And when the body when the person dies, then there's this energy that builds up, and the connection between the energy in that hollow space and the energy of the soul, and it just boom, a little micro spark, and it departs from the body. But there are some cases where the energy builds up too much, and it builds and builds and builds, but the soul won't release from that space until boosh, spontaneous human combustion. He says that's what that's about.
No way.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
That is fascinating.
And it's very, spontaneous human combustion is very common in, well, it's not very common at all, but it's particularly common in people who have a hard time letting go of things. Like hoarders would be an example.
Wow, that is fascinating. I've never heard it put in that way ever. And what I do like about what's currently coming out is the idea that consciousness is stored within each cell, and that because I also do energy healing and also just working with people's consciousness and hypnosis it's so much fun. And it, like, when you can relate your consciousness to every cell in your body, wellness becomes so much more of a possibility. It's like if you can think about the cells of your body and connect with them, then you can tune into whether or not they're vibrating or you're sensing, whatever it is, however you interpret it, but you can tune into that aspect of yourself. And really just setting the intention is a huge thing, you know? So I love to hear you say that, and what's cool talking to you is I feel so much momentum and excitement for what can potentially happen, whether it's people like you who have this really powerful juxtaposition of, you know, it's sort of old paradigm and accepted structural paradigm with new, and then a blending, and then what comes of that is something totally like cutting edge and what we're ready for. And so it just seems like people who are able to straddle that space are poised, if they want, to contribute some really cool offerings. And plus it's fun, right? Like, isn't science so much more fun when you can play with mysticism and bridge that? It's so sterile and dry otherwise.
I remember, speaking of the whole cellular aspect of healing, I remember I was walking in Memorial Park, which has a lot of roots in the paths, and I'm so clumsy. Anyway, I tripped, and I fell really hard on one of my knees. And I was deep in the forest. I thought, my God, I didn't know if I could walk. I really was struggling, and I thought, how am I going to get out of here? And so I visualized, you know, the healing of I visualized what cells were inflamed and, you know, sort of swept white healing energy back and forth over certain areas inside the knee. And within just like 5 minutes, the pain was gone, and I could actually see the swelling, because it was huge, swelling recede and go away. That's cool.
That is so cool.
Got out without limping even.
Yeah. Have you ever read any Cynthia Sue Larson?
Mm-mm.
She is...
Well, name one of her books.
Oh, I'm terrible with that kind. Let's see. Quantum Leaps. So
I've heard about them.
Yeah, she talks about that kind of thing where if you just are in a place of total belief that these things can happen. And she had a girlfriend who broke her leg and had gotten X-rays and everything, and was like, what am I going to do? I have to go to a job interview or something like that. And she said, okay, well, you're just going to totally believe and visualize that your leg is perfect. And apparently it totally mended right then and there. And she even got another X-ray, and they're like, you never broke your leg.
That's crazy, because usually you can see an old fracture even after it's completely healed. That is so cool. You know that at the Cancer Hospital, MD Anderson, they have an energy healing department.
They do? Oh, I wish that my father went there and they didn't have that back then. But
yeah,
that's so good that they're doing that. And so that's the part, and you may be able to answer that. I'm curious, because there are the hardliners that are like, I mean, even a pediatrician that we went to when we lived in the Woodlands refused. He said, and I'm not going to name his name, but he did say, don't tell me the alternative treatments that you're using on your children, because I won't work with you if you do. And I was like, so you're basically telling me to not inform you of the medical history of my children? and I just, so that's just an example of a hard line. And then clearly, if MD Anderson, which is like the pinnacle of cancer treatment, is allowing alternative modalities, clearly something's happening. So I'm just wondering, like, are these communities needing to be like deciding, like, if we're taking on some additional modalities, are we not able to work with people who are hardliners. I'm just wondering, like, what.
Well, I've been having trouble with that myself because I have discovered my son Lucas has this depression that doesn't respond to the usual antidepressants. And so I did research, and it looks like he has an autoimmune endorphin deficiency. So I put him on something called low-dose naltrexone. Now, naltrexone is used to help, with heroin addiction and things like that. But if you give a person, like, instead of 50 milligrams, 4.5 milligrams at night, then it disappears from the body really fast, and the body thinks, oh my God, where's my naltrexone? And it increases endorphins by 300%. Now, endorphins are not just to make you feel good. Endorphin receptors are on just about every cell in the body, and they are pivotal in the whole inflammatory cascade. So they are involved in even autism and cancer and heart disease and autoimmune disease and so on. So, for example, and there are many of these examples, I have a blog member that is very young but has really bad ankylosing spondylitis, and he's on methotrexate and high doses of cortisone and all sorts of stuff.
What is that?
It's where you pretty much, your whole spine becomes ossified, and you get this bamboo, stiff and joint pain, all sorts of stuff. It's the autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
And so I told him to just get 50 milligram naltrexone and just put one tablet, dissolve it in 50 cc's of distilled water, and take 4.5 cc's every night between 9 and 11. And it costs less than a penny a day.
Wow.
Okay? Compared to Concentrix and stuff like that. So he did, and he's such a skeptic, but he did the research on it first, and he is now off of methotrexate, off of corticosteroids, and only on LDN, and he feels so much better. He's not as disabled. Instead of working 4 hours a day, he works full time, and so it's really amazing.
That's amazing.
How well it works.
Wow.
And when Lucas started taking it, after the second day, he came downstairs and says, Mom, I feel normal for the first time in my life. But my point is that Big Pharma is not going to send pharmaceutical reps to doctors' offices saying, hey, you need to give this miracle drug. And it's also called the why not drug, because the safety profile is like, why not try it? It's the only thing it can cause is the first week you can have trouble sleeping deeply, but that's 1 week. And you can't take it if you have an organ transplant or if you're on like heroin or whatever.
Oh, because it'll.
But they don't send. They want to sell the big toxic medications and chemotherapy. A lot of people, if they just took high doses of vitamin C, which is really, IV vitamin C, that can be curative. CBD oil, all these inexpensive things compared to these really toxic medications. So yeah, I'm battling with that myself.
So do you see a way out of this morass? It seems like it's becoming more polarized, but it doesn't seem like it needs to be. Why couldn't Big Pharma make tons of money on things that help people be well?
Well, they wouldn't be able to make enough money on low-dose naltrexone, for example. Seriously, less than a penny a day. What are they going to do? Well, of course, I could see them just overcharging for it, but I don't know. Maybe the old doctors are just going to die out, and the new ones coming up hopefully will. But it's terrible because some of my people have gone to their doctors, giving literature on low-dose naltrexone. Even the studies at Stanford and so on and so forth. But no, I'm not going to do that. No, I don't know anything about it.
Right.
Well, why not research for your patients? So finally, one rheumatologist said, well, I've never heard of this before, but I will look into it. And she allowed her patient to get on it just as I prescribed. And she saw remarkable results in the patient. And now it's opened her whole world. And now she's going to start other patients on that and get them off these high doses of prednisone that can cause you to have, avascular necrosis of the femoral head. So you have to have a hip replacement, osteoporosis. These drugs are deadly. But so
Right, and it becomes commonplace where you get like the commercials that give the quick disclaimers at the end, and people are being
can't cause death.
Yeah, like symptoms that resemble Ebola.
I know.
People are willing to hear this. I guess that it's just sort of like this mantra that starts to become part of the consciousness that if I take pharmaceuticals, I may have my health may be totally ruined, but maybe it's worth it. And I mean, that just seems like, really?
I know. Well, there's a lot of pharmaceutical medication that obviously does help and is necessary. I agree, but not without exploring the alternatives first, I think. And the problem is most doctors tend to have an ego. So they don't want their patients thinking up something they didn't think of.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get that.
Do you feel
how dare you tell me how to practice medicine? That sort of thing.
And this is just my own belief system about it, but it's my belief that the training lends itself to that level of self-aggrandizement, because it's like you get so hazed, you work so hard, and it's like, so when I'm finally a doctor, I can kind of,
that, or maybe the people who choose the profession. There are two types of doctors: those that choose it as a calling, which is what I did,
healers,
because it's a lot. There's a lot easier ways to make that kind of money, and there's those that want the
prestige,
prestige, and the income. So it could be the type of person that chooses it too. I never really had an ego, because I think part of it is because having 5 kids is such a humbling experience that my whatever ego was there was just beaten down over time, fortunately. So, and I'm grateful for that.
Where were you in your medical career when you started having children?
Actually, right after I got out of my residency.
So, yeah, wow.
When I first started practicing.
Wow. And so, and how far apart are they in age?
Anywhere from mostly 2 years apart. The youngest one is 10 years younger than the eldest one. And Christina, my eldest, just moved from North Carolina.
Oh, yeah?
She lived in Cary.
Oh, cool.
She was there for a year. Because she was working in Betsy something Johnson Hospital in Dunn as a chief anesthesiologist.
Oh, really? Oh, how cool.
And her husband was doing he's an orthopedic surgeon, was doing his joint replacement fellowship at Duke.
Oh,
so
cool.
Now they've just moved back this weekend to Houston.
So they were there for his fellowship, and now they're back in Texas?
Yep, back in Texas.
That's cool.
Back in the heat, and she's pregnant in August. Oh my gosh, poor thing. I know, I've been there, done that.
Me too. Oh my goodness. Well, that's about all the time that we have, and I just could talk to you forever, and I have so many questions. So I'm hoping that you would be willing to come back on the show sometime, because it's been an absolute honor to have you, Elisa.
Sure. It'd be fun to bring Eric on too.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. And I will keep in touch with you, and I'll be paying attention as things are so fun as I watch the unfoldment on channeling Eric as well. And it's great stuff. And thank you so much for your courage and willingness to bring forward this very powerful and new way of being human.
Well, thank you for doing all that you do also. And don't forget to send me that guided meditation. Maybe we'll get a big old group to help heal this planet.
Yeah, we got to do that. I'll do that right away.
Okay.
All right. Take good care. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.